when it comes to wedding photography, whether you're an established photographer, whether you've just come into the industry, you're fairly new, or whether you're thinking about getting into the wedding photography, I think this there's something that's of concern, shall we say. So last night I was watching TV, and an advert came, and I've seen it several times. Google Pixel phone, and my wife's got a Google, one of the Google phones, and what they
Yeah.
do is they're showing a somebody taking photos of a group of people, and and what they do is they just press it just to say, "Oh, look, this person's miserable. Click, let's press it, and we'll put a smile on this person." It says something like,
Hmm.
"Hey, perfect photos." With the
Mm.
you can do it on your phone. Now we know phones have been doing this. We know that on phones you can just remove something out of a photo now straight away just by pressing on it, and you can remove it from the background. We know all of that, okay? And we know that you can put a smile on someone's face.
Yeah.
But my concern here is when I was watching that advert yesterday was a little bit more on the serious side, because I was thinking that certainly for the length of times, Mark, that you and I have been doing weddings, I've certainly, and I've been doing it for longer, I've seen the change in behavior from, customers out there, shall we say. People's expectations are very, very, have changed enormously now. I've gone through the years ago of shooting on medium format film, shooting a wedding, coming away with shooting 60 pictures at a whole wedding, and everything was very formal. Then we came into the far more informal style of photography. Two photographers were introduced at weddings. Everything started to become a lot more relaxed, more informal, that type of thing. And couples were saying, we want to keep our wedding really informal. We don't want, fussy group photos. Fine. That's fair enough. Okay, things change. I get that. And I don't have a problem with that. And I don't have a problem with styles changing and people thinking differently. The concern for me now are two or three different things. I think weddings are becoming a couple more and more couples are saying we don't want our wedding to be staged. We want it really informal. But the way I now see weddings, I think more and more weddings are becoming scripted, and people don't realize that they're becoming scripted because they're seeing what's happening on TikTok and they're seeing what's happening on Instagram, and they want to replicate everything on that. And we're also now getting to a point where people are asking for more and more editing. And this is with my main point, what I'm coming on to. And a lot of photographers now are using, and you do it, and I don't really do it, using AI in Photoshop. And I don't,
I
I
don't.
don't really,
Oh, hang on. No, no, hang on.
yeah,
I don't use it a lot.
okay,
I've used it I've used it for things that not necessarily things like putting smiles on people's faces or anything like that, like we were talking about with the
yeah,
Google
sure,
phone.
yeah. No, I
But I
wasn't
have
implying
used
that.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah, but things like the denoise um system now in Lightroom is phenomenal. It used to be
yeah,
rubbish, and now it's really good.
yeah,
I never got on with it before, and
yeah.
now it's really good. I don't do a lot of AI. Maybe do something with the sky, perhaps, if it's
Mark,
possible to do.
don't get before you continue. Right, don't get me wrong. I'm
Mm,
not. I'm not having a go at AI at all. I'm not having a go
mm,
at AI in Photoshop. It's not that at all. All
mm.
I would you were using AI. Sorry, carry on that. But I just wanted to say I wasn't sort of
Yeah.
saying, oh no, Mark, you use AI and that's a big problem.
Oh
I
no, no,
wasn't
no! I
saying that
know that.
at
I
all.
know
Yeah,
that. I
yeah.
know that. But I just wanted to clarify because I do a lot of obviously my time punk stuff. I do a lot of compositions, and I don't use
Great
AI
stuff.
for
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
I do that. I cut out myself. I mean, there's
yeah.
inbuilt AI with Photoshop, which, for example, when you're masking the hair out and stuff like that, I mean, you can't do that properly without that. Um, but the blending and the colors and the composition and all that kind of stuff, I don't use AI for that. I do that
Fine.
myself,
Yeah.
which is what I want to clarify, really.
Yeah. Now, AI is there to be used. Embrace it. I think AI is
Mm.
brilliant. It's the way it's moving forward. So great. And nothing wrong with it at all. Don't have a problem with it. Photoshop, they've introduced it, and it's only going to get better. And I think it's brilliant. Embrace it, use it, and all of that. My my concern really comes though is what people are going to expect at weddings. What are they going to be expecting? Um, they're going to now look at pictures and they're going to say, I want this editing, and this editing. And that's happened. That's been happening for the last few years more and more. People are now, though, so sort of saying, can you remove this? Can you remove that? Because they know that things can be done, and they can be done so much more easily as well. That's fine.
Mm.
Okay. But I think it's starting to go even further now, where couples now, and we've experienced it, where couples are asking for things that are very, 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 very detailed, and it is those smiles, it is that degree of smile as well. It is those things, and my worry here is that it's going to add on a lot more work for the photographers. It's
Mm.
going to suddenly put photographers into a situation thinking, do I charge for this? How do I charge for this? Is the customer expecting to pay for this? Now, you might say, well, of course they are. But if a customer comes to you and says, I'm not quite happy with something, you want to do your best as a service provider to rectify it. You don't want to get yourself into a situation, I can do it, but it's going to cost you X amount. And the customer turns around and says, yeah, but I'm not happy with the photos that you've given me.
Yeah.
The person isn't smiling, and then you sort of get into a battle of saying, well, the person's not smiling because it's a natural photo. And yeah, but then the customer says, yeah, but it's up to you to make those people smile. That's what we paid you for. That's why we used a professional. Do you see what I mean? So you battle and
Yeah.
you go back and forth, and you're battling it and battling it, and it can bring you down. It starts to cost, it starts to time. People are going to write bad reviews. There's a potential of all of these things happening. That's what I'm saying. So
Mm.
where do we sit now with contracts? Do we put things into contracts that are even more detailed than they were before when it comes to editing, retouching, expectations?
Well, I guess, yeah. I mean, you could do something like, all these photos cover a standard editing process. And then maybe you'd have to put a table of what's included in standard editing. So
We do,
you would say
yeah.
things, yeah. So in that standard editing, I'd probably count, exposure compensation, white balance, possibly. Um, maybe a few curves and contrast, and just the basic stuff. I would have there in standard, and then and if you are wanting things like, we cannot be in control of every single guest. If you're taking a picture of 20 people, I mean, I tend to shoot loads when I'm taking big groups. That's what I do at the studio. So then I don't have to do things like face swaps, because one shot out of, them will be everyone smiling. But there's always going to be someone blinking. There's always going to be someone in mid-speech. There's always going to be someone doing something. If you're taking pictures of 20 people, who aren't models, who aren't, and there's always going to be someone. There always
I
is. They look
you
away, or it
totally
always
agree
is.
with
So
what you've said.
I take, yeah. So I take a lot of pictures. If
Yeah.
I'm doing a group shot, I'll probably take 10, maybe 15 pictures of the same group shot, because I don't want to be bloody face swapping and stuff, because it's a
Okay.
pain in the bum.
Exactly right. You're 100% right. However, and we've experienced this when couples have, when you've edited, yeah, it says, great. Oh, but oh,
Mm.
that group
Yeah.
picture? I've just
So
noticed.
there you have
Would,
it. So,
would you now be able to put a smile on my Nando's? Because and although you might then say, well, it's not on the list and it's extra charges.
yeah.
What I'm saying is, for everyone, for customers out there, they think that everything is an easy fix. Could you just do this? Could you just put a smile on my
Mm.
nan's face? I hadn't noticed it before, but because now I've looked at this picture 100 times and I'm now looking at it in such fine detail,
Yeah.
whereas it was a group photo with 20 people, what I've decided to do now, I'm going to look at the expression of every single person in that group photo
Well,
now.
maybe what you
And
do in
this
your
is,
contract, yeah,
yeah,
maybe what you do in your contract, you say, look, this covers the standard editing, right? So if you're wanting anything else, you have, let's say, a month after you've had the photographs to work out what it is you want. And we want the list of everything, and then we will charge accordingly. You know,
yeah, no, I agree, Mark.
I, th
And
I
in
think I think
black
that's
and
what you
white,
do.
yeah, but in black and white, that sounds fine. But the thing is customers' expectations now are going beyond that, because for them, it's just saying, oh, but I would have thought that that would be included. Oh, but it's not in our list. Yeah, but it's
No,
standard. It's easy because you know what? I could have done it on my phone. But
no,
this is
but they
people's.
can't do it on their phone. They can't do it on their phone. But this is the thing, and and I guess this is what you do before the wedding starts. Before when you have your consultation, this is something maybe you should go through it. You say, look,
Hmm,
Google put this thing on their phone. You try printing that up to a 2016. That smile's going to look crap. quite frankly. It's the same when you can remove stuff on the phone. It's very basic removal software, which looks fine on a phone. It looks fine on your iPad. It looks fine on social media. But if you try and print that, it's going to look rubbish because
Mm.
that's the state of camera phones. They're
Okay.
getting better and better. But that's the difference. We could easily put a smile on someone's face. It just,
Mm.
and if you want it on your phone, it'll look fine. But if you want to print that out and put it on your wall, it won't look fine. And that's the difference.
Okay, right. That's fine. So let's move that on just to the next step, okay? Because
Yeah.
the conversation that we've just had, we could go. That's another. That's several shows, and there we could get some AI experts on and talk about that, and photographers,
Mm.
what situation they've had, and what situations that they're finding, and we'll do that. However, so I'm going to move just on to the next step, though. It's dealing with the actual customer and still retaining good relationships. When a customer just says, "Oh, you couldn't just lift my eyebrow up a little bit, could you?" While you're fixing my eye, while you're fixing my dress, and while you're fixing this, and I know I'm paying a little bit extra. Well, could you? I've just noticed that my eyebrow, my left eyebrow, now needs shifting down a bit. Now, forgetting the fact that whether it can be done or whether it can't be done, whether you charge for it or whether you don't charge for it, I think we're getting to the point where as photographers and as business owners, you have to do this anyway. You have to become quite thick skinned. And if you're
Mm.
a fairly sort of timid sort of person and you're thinking getting into wedding photography and all of that, I think you have to sort of learn now to become very customer focused here. You have to become very confident
You
and
do.
skilled, okay,
But
of how
I
you're
still
going to
think
deal with
it's
these things and not take it as personal criticism because these things can end up eating you up and taking a lot of
oh, without a
time.
shadow of a doubt. And I think experience is what does that mainly, to be honest with you. Well, I remember when I started shooting, when I first did or started doing this, I was terrified of people not liking my work and,
Hmm.
what was I going to do? And I've been in, when I was working with Venture, like my first year, I've had families like, obviously not like the work that I produced and, Venture do charge what they charge and you feel awful.
Hmm.
It was bad, but it doesn't tend to happen to me much anymore. I mean, you're always going to get someone who will complain about something.
Of course.
But generally, I mean, experience helps with that. I still, though, think it's all about the preempting these problems, preempting this situation. So,
Hmm.
before you shoot the wedding, it's all about preempting. And if a client knows X, Y, and Z, and then they come back to, oh, can you just do this? And well, you know, we've said we need a list of all these things within 30 days of you receiving the photos if you want anything doing. And we will charge you for it. We told you this before the wedding, it's in the contract, and you've got that backing up. And if you preempt it properly, then the conversation probably shouldn't arise. The conversation will be, yeah, we want this list of things doing. We understand there's going to be a charge for that, and if you sorted out a proper pricing structure, they go, yeah, we know we're going to be paying 200 quid for this, but we need this list doing, you know, because it is above and beyond. But you have to preempt it. That is the best way of sorting this out.
Yeah. Now, I totally agree. Now, so photographers that are out there now thinking is how's your contract right this very moment? Okay, before you sort of take any new bookings, what are you going to do to preempt it? Because that is the best thing to start
Mm,
off with. That's the thing. Now, I think it's not a case of people not liking the work. They might like your work overall, but I think it's all those niggly little things that start to appear afterwards. Okay.
mm,
And those things I think now are appearing more and more. And I think what I want to sort of say is as photographers is just be prepared for it. Preempt it as you say it,
mm.
Mark. Get it in contracts. Okay. That's important, but I think I think as photographers, and we're going to all have to start to take this and be prepared to listen to people that are saying, I'm not happy about this. I want this done. I want this done. I want that done. I want this done. And it doesn't eat away your time. And suddenly it
Mm.
becomes bigger than it should ever have done.
I guess the other thing
So,
to think about as well, Cam, is that,
hmm,
and we're part of well, I mean, sort of part of the older guard of photographers. We're not the really old guard, obviously, but I'm guessing a lot of new photographers will have been brought up with this technology.
Yeah,
People. So for them, it might be a bit different, and they might instinctively know how to deal with this more than what we would, because obviously, like you said, you started using medium format. So did I. My first wedding was on medium format too.
yeah,
Um, you know, uh, that's a world away to a lot of the photographers who are operating now because they never use film and they're
yeah,
more in touch with this technology and how to deal with it and how to preempt things and stuff. So there is that as well.
yeah,
Um, you've always got to roll with the times, but
yeah.
when the times are with you, and it's that same old, isn't it? The older you get, the more you've got to learn what the new things are. Whereas
Yeah,
if you're younger, these things are second nature, really, aren't they?
yeah, yeah,
Social media being a blooming good example. I mean, I have to
yeah.
really force myself to go on social media. We know people younger who are always on social media, and
Yes, yeah.
it's a big difference. And I guess that's the same with this kind of stuff as well. People will just know. But I would just add though, if it was that easy to put a smile on the face like Google Pixel are claiming, then Photoshop would have it in their toolbox, and they don't.
Yeah, they would do, and I think that they're going to be putting more and more of these things in. They're just going to be sowing the
Yeah.
seed in couples and any type of
But
photography
it's
in their mind.
easy. Yeah, I just go back
Yeah,
to a low res image. It's easy to do this stuff.
yeah,
And
yeah,
let's not beat around the bush. Photos from a phone, as
yeah,
brilliant as they are compared to what they were 5 years ago, maybe
mm,
even 2 years ago, right? They are so
yeah,
much better than what they were, but nevertheless, they are still low res images. They're
mm,
taken on a tiny, tiny sensor, they're taken
yeah.
in a tiny, tiny lens, and they interpolate all these pixels, and they're not the same as an SLR yet, or,
Right,
or a mirrorless camera. The sort of cameras that we use at a wedding, they're not the same as that yet. And I do underline yet because they might do in the future. But at the moment, they're not. And it's a lot easier to edit a low res image to do whatever you can on a low res image than it is on a higher res image, quite frankly.
right, right.
To make it look good and make it look seamless and make it look not natural, I guess is the word I'm saying. Because
Yeah,
if that was as easy to do it on a PSD, then as
yeah.
I said, Photoshop would have had it in their systems well before Google Pixel would have done.
Of
But
course,
obviously, it's
that's
not
right.
that easy.
Yeah,
And I think that's the reality of it.
yeah. Okay, Mark. It's something that I think is going to be it's a never ending conversation.
Yeah.
We will revisit it, but I think what I want to finish off is to say to everyone is have a look at your contracts and start
Mm,
thinking about it. Don't panic, nothing to panic about, but just start thinking, as was Mark was saying about preempting it and thinking about what you should be doing. So, um,
yeah.
yeah,
But also, just as a
okay,
thought as well, just regarding photography generally, it used to be a craft. Now it's very much a technology industry. It's
yeah,
tech now. It never used to be tech, and now it
yeah,
is, and that
yeah,
happens in the late 90s, really.
yeah,
That's when it started.
yes,
So it is something that we have to keep up with, which
yeah.
photographers in the 70s and the 80s never had to.